So we're in our final section of chapter 3. Hooray! I know you thought you'd never make it, but you're here. And we just have to finish up a few things. So the first thing we're going to learn about is something called the 5-number summary. That's what these 5 numbers together represent. The lowest, Q1, median, Q3, and the max. Those 5 numbers summarize a lot about the data. They tell you where the lowest and highest are, and they also tell you where the first quartile, median, 50th quartile, or 50th percentile, second quartile, and the third quartile, 75th percentile are. So I have this data set, and of course we've already worked with this data set before, but that's okay. I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to go to Excel, and I'm actually going to make this its own question. I'm going to copy, because I already have these already put in, and I'm going to paste and bring them in again. And this is 3.5, example 1. Okay, and it's not because I couldn't put it on this other page, but just because I thought, let's kind of keep our sanity here. All right, now if you look back at the page of notes that we're working on, it wants us to find a whole bunch of stuff: mean, median, mode, standard deviation, variance, min, Q1, and so on, and then the range and the IQR and the fences. So I'm going to do as much as I possibly can with, well, let's just use StatCrunch, shall we? So I already had StatCrunch working for these, but let me just remind you that if you have the scores in there, StatCrunch, this is so much easier than Excel. I mean, it really is. And remember, Excel doesn't find the quartiles correctly anyway. So go to Stat, Summary Stats, Columns. I want it for these test scores. Next. And then it has a whole laundry list of stuff already in there. The only thing that isn't in there that I want is the IQR. I don't really need N. I mean, if you want N, you can have it, but you don't really need it. But the rest of these I want. Oh, standard error, I don't want that either. So the mean, variance, standard deviation, median, the range, min, max, and so on. So I'm going to calculate. And I'm going to copy. Go back to my Excel and paste. I mean, it's just so much faster than Excel. I mean, Excel will find all of these. It's just you've got to sit there and type them all. Actually, it won't find all of these. Excel will not find these 3 back here. So, in case you're wondering, min, by the way, is minimum. So min, min, of that data set. If you want to find the max, it's equal to the max of that data set. I know we ran across those in range, but that's how to find them individually. The range is equal to that value minus that value. Enter. The median is equal to median of this. Variance is equal to var.s, or var, just plain var if you have old school Excel, var.s of that data. And the standard deviation is equal to stdev.s of that data. And again, I'm just reiterating how to do all of this because, you know, with Excel, you have to know, of course, how to do it with both programs. So now we've done it with StatCrunch and with Excel. Unfortunately for you guys, StatCrunch does not find, or excuse me, I apologize, StatCrunch finds these 3, Excel does not. So Excel will find all these other values, but it will not find these 3. So yes, sit here and type them out. I know it's tedious, but again, you've got to know how to do it with both programs. They're both pretty useful in their own right, so take the time to do it. All right, we've done it. So now we just have to use this values for our notes back here. So it wants the mean, the median, the mode. Notice neither program found the mode. We're going to have to type that ourselves. So the mean was, let me go over here, 86.7273. You know what? Let me type these up. I'll be right back. There. I used my StatCrunch and or Excel output to help me with all of these. So it found me all these values. It found me all these values. It actually found IQR to be 10, and it found the range to be 40 as well. Right? So all of those were found with Excel and or StatCrunch. Right? So StatCrunch in particular is the only one that can find quartiles. Now the mode is a little bit weird because the mode doesn't get found by either one of those programs. You just kind of have to look at the data in order and figure out which one occurred the most often. And that in this case would be 98. There we go. All right, now we got to find the fences. So I'm going to go back to Excel. I'm going to find the lower fence. Let's see, it would be equal to, all right? So it's Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. We already found it, I know, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate how to find this stuff. So Q3 95 plus 1.5, oopsie, times IQR, which was 10. There we go, we've got our fences. Okay, so our fences, whoopsie, come back. There they are. Our fences were 70 and 110. Okay, you got your fences now. Good. All right, just a little review there of finding all those values. These 5 numbers right here are called the 5-number summary. Whoa, whoa, hold on. I don't know what was going on there. So let me give me green, right? All right, we're done with that. Now how to make box plots. Box plots are a graph of these 5 green numbers right here. Okay, so there's all these instructions if you're going to do it by hand. You have to find the fences, then you draw lines and so on. To be honest with you, I'm not really going to have you do them by hand. I'm going to have you read them. That's more important to us than making them, right? So although we're going to make them with StatCrunch. StatCrunch makes them pretty easily, but we're not going to make them by hand. So I want you to be able to read them. So for example, this is our test scores, right? See it right there? What's the maximum value? So you see over here, see how the highest little value right there is 98. That's where the whisker goes to. So the whisker goes to the highest value. So, oopsie. Hold on one second. There we go. It's a mini tab graph, so it always gets a little possessed. All right, what proportion of the scores lie between 95 and 98? Okay, here's the 95 line. Now, let me, you know what, give me 1 second. Let me write on this for a sec. There we go. That helps. So just so you could see visually what's going on. So this line right here is Q1. This line right here in a box plot is the median. This is Q3. This is the max over here. And way over here is the min. Okay, that's what these are telling you. Insert vertical lines at Q1, M, and Q3. That's those vertical lines. Make a box out of it. Then you put in your fences, and you don't make yourself go past your fences. Remember how we had a fence at 70. So I can't go to any value that's lower than 70. So the 58 has to get a little star because he's an outlier. Okay, so if these are the quartiles, then what percentage lies in between 95 and 98, between Q3 and the max? Well, that would be 25%, because each section here, this whole whisker from starting from the star all the way up, that's 25%. Then this half of the box is 25% of the scores, and then this half of the box is 25% of the scores, and then up here is 25%. Why is there a star on the left side? Because 58 was an outlier. It's lower than the lower fence of 70. All right, so then what about this left-hand whisker? What number is that going to? It's not going to 58. Let me go back to the data set real quick. It's not going to 58 because 58 is too far. 58 is lower than this lower fence down here. So what number is it going to? And the answer is going to 74, the next number in the data set. So that's what it's going to. 74. Because 74 is above the fence, the lower fence, and in the data set. Awesome. Okay, now how do we do this in some slightly different ways? So first of all, I want you to see that box plots can be drawn vertically. This is the exact same box plot, excuse me. There's the 58 down there, there's the whisker and all of that. It's just that it's vertical instead of horizontal. And then you can also use StatCrunch to make them. Here's StatCrunch. StatCrunch isn't quite as nice as Minitab, but StatCrunch is free and Minitab is not. Minitab is quite an expensive program if you buy the full version. So there's the StatCrunch plot. Oopsie. Let me zoom out for a second so you can see it. There it is. Okay. All right. So before I go any further, I want to make that plot and put it in my Excel spreadsheet because that's an important plot to know how to make. So I'm going to go back to StatCrunch. I'm going to go to Graphics and then see Box Plot right there. Box Plot. I want it for that test scores. Create graph. And there it is. Cool. Now let me edit it for just a second. If you click next rather than if you want to draw it horizontally right there, and you want to use fences to the outliers. Sorry, I should have done that in the first place. Then create graph. Okay, so let me show it again. Graphics, box plot, test scores, or whatever your data is. Next, don't click create graph. I'm sorry. Use fences for sure. Draw boxes horizontally. I like horizontal ones better. And then you can just copy and go to your spreadsheet and paste it in. And there it is. All right, so we've seen how to do it in computer programs. StatCrunch is super easy to do it. Then box plots can kind of give you a sense of skewing left and skewing right. They're not perfect, but they're a good rule of thumb for whether it's skewed left or skewed right. And it's that you want to look for the wider, longer whisker or larger box, right, will be equal to the skew. Okay, so for example, on this picture right here, it's got a longer whisker on the right, and it's got a larger box on the right, so it's skewed right. Here in the middle, they're basically the same. They're not perfect, but they're basically the same, so that's symmetric. Over here, it's got a longer whisker, see that? And a longer box on that side, so that's skewed left. This is not a perfect rule, but it's a quick way to kind of get a sense of things. Sometimes, though, it can be really messed up, like your whisker's longer, but your box is smaller, stuff like that. That can be messy. In which case, then just don't use the box plot. Go look for something else, like a histogram or something. Okay. So looking at our test data again, which we made a box plot over right here, is that skewed left, skewed right, or symmetric? And the answer is it is skewed left. You can see it because it's got the big long tail, because you kind of imagine it goes all the way out to that dot, that star, that outlier. So that's skewed left. Okay, so if that's the case, would it be best to approach the median standard deviation or to report the median and IQR? The answer is median and IQR are always better to report when the data is skewed, right? Because they are resistant to the outlier of 58. Right? All that skewing that you see, they're resistant to it. All right, and then we have this lovely pre-made graph. This is of that export data that we've seen a couple times for reading computer outputs. So notice you've got your low numbers right here, your high numbers up here. So it's a vertical graph, excuse me. What's the shape? And the answer is it is skewed right. Another word for that is positive, right? Positively skewed, right? When it's skewed to the high numbers, when you got this big long tail, which you do, look at that whisker, because it goes all the way out to those stars. So that's skewed right. How many outliers does this distribution have? 3. Right? There are 3 stars. They're all on the high end. All right, we have one question left, but it's going to take us a couple minutes, so I'm going to stop right here, and I'll pick up that video for this last question next time.